Free. The Pan-African Pyramid Weekly Roundup, your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katsabe, with my comrade Countries-Lissafre, Rutatina, a.k.a. Rutatina is a freelance journalist.
By the way, I moved from Mutatina to Rutatina very recently.
Yeah.
I think
no, it is the same.
Upgrade, right?
It is the same.
Upgrade.
And my elder brother, Comrade Dan Rugarama, he's a lawyer, but he's also the chairman of the Pan-African Movement Uganda Secretariat, the National Secretariat, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Or the Uganda chapter, the National Chapter, Pan-African Movement. We take you through the world in an hour's time every Monday here, seated at Satellite Hotel in Kisasi. Number one, Comrade Mutatina. Maybe before I could introduce my own topics, what is it that caught your attention the entire last week? Just a brief. We could begin with what was in your mind.
No, obviously, last week we were looking at the situations in Ukraine and like trying to understand why the same things are not happening in Congo. You know, there's always like some sort of two sorts of balance when we speak of Congo and when we speak of similar conflict somewhere else.
The same rules don't apply.
Same rules don't really apply.
That one is on the agenda, so you don't have something new. Comrade Rugarama, do you have anything new besides our agenda today?
Absolutely, and it could have been our agenda today anyway, but we cannot discuss everything. I was intrigued as to the complaints registered by Europe, where my brother Rutatina hails from, when they complained that the issues of Ukraine, which is the next neighbor in Eastern Europe, were being handled by Russia and America minus their input. And I reflected. Yes, I reflected. The entire Europe actually was, especially France and Britain, which claim to be the superpowers in Europe. Germany is having her own troubles. So I reflected and I was like, how people forget so fast that it is the same Europe who in 1884-85 were at Berlin and partitioning Africa without the direct input of any African
country.
Now they are complaining that their very own Ukraine issues are being sorted out by America,
without us,
which is separated by an entire Atlantic Ocean, miles and miles away. And even when Britain tried to come in, you remember, after Zelensky was humiliated in the Oval Office, immediately he landed in London and he was having a conversation. Now, in the report which was given to the media, the Prime Minister of Britain consciously had to say, we are going to handle this issue, but we shall make sure that America, United States of America, is equally brought on board, such that we are working in harmony. That, therefore, by conclusion, means that where there is a strong man, there is a stronger man. And Europe is seeing it. They actually
they are now feeling the pinch.
They are
testing
their own of their own medicine.
Yes.
And that is even in respect to, you see what they are trying to do now. Poland has come out to categorically state that they are increasing their budget in military financing. The entire Europe now is realizing that you cannot have a guarantor of peace, you must be the guarantor of peace yourself.
But that's where I want to come and say that Europe, you're right, is tasting like its own medicine and find it bitter.
You're feeling the pinch.
They're feeling the pinch, they find it bitter. But it's also like, if we compare like the situation, we also realize that Europeans are now reorganizing their own defense. financing it by $850 billion of money that will go most probably to Americans' company because they are the first sellers of weapons, but France is the second world seller of weapons. So some money will also stay in Europe to militarize the conflict in Europe. So what it seems to me, it's also like Donald Trump withdrawing from Europe is a small laboratory of America withdrawing from the world, right? And what we see Europeans decided to self-organize because one power is leaving, so the protection is leaving, so now they're reorganizing themselves. And I'm wondering, like, what do we do here, as here in Central Africa and East Africa, what do we do to replace Americans' power here in Africa? Because we know that they're withdrawing with USAID, and I'm thinking, what is it that we are doing to reorganize in a Pan-African way, so next time that America will be powerful and will try to melt on people politics or people interest in economics, we will be strong enough to don't need them. The same way Europeans right now try to be strong enough to don't need Americans in the conflict with Russia.
Very good. Comrade Lissafre and Comrade Elder Daniel Rugarama, the US government under President Donald Trump is considering a new travel ban targeting 22 African countries and 21 others, those under the junta government. They consider them junta government. This proposed ban is expected to be broader than the restrictions imposed during President Trump's first term. Reports have it that US diplomatic security officials developed the draft list of 43 countries, some of which were included in the travel ban imposed during President Trump's first administration. The draft suggests a red list of 11 countries, an orange list of 10 countries, and a yellow list of 22 countries. Citizens of countries of the red list would be flatly barred from entering the United States. Now that is when you're in red, for you don't even think about going to America. You're in red. But then, those whose countries on the orange list will face travel restrictions. For you can face some few travel restrictions and so on if you're in yellow. Then affluent business travelers from such countries might be granted entry in these countries, but individuals arriving on immigration or tourists would be denied access. Countries on the yellow list will be given a 60-day window to address concerns before a verdict is reached. The red list has 3 African countries. Listen to this one, Comrade Lissafre. The red list has 3 African countries. Number 1, Libya. The one they stole from left to right. Now they have put it in red.
They messed up.
They vandalized it.
They vandalized
very good word. Number 2, Somalia. The one they are dividing into 2, Somaliland and Somalia.
Yeah.
Number 3, Sudan. The one they have divided from, they have made 2 countries, Sudan and South Sudan. And right now, they are actually dealing with the rebels, selling to them the minerals.
I will give you the reasons, Comrade Speaker, as to why those 3 have been pointed out and red listed.
Okay, very good. Let me finish. The rest of the countries from other continents on the red list, apart from Africa, the other countries are Afghanistan, Bhutan, Cuba. Listen, Cuba that has been under embargo since 1960.
For the last 60 years.
60 years. Yeah. They have even moved and put them on red list now. Iran, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela and Yemen. There are also 3 African countries, Eritrea, Sierra Leone and South Sudan, on the orange list. The rest are Belarus, Haiti, Laos, Myanmar, Pakistan, Russia, and Turkmenistan.
So can those countries still sell minerals? Can those countries still sell minerals to the US? I don't know, you will tell me. Oh, that mineral also don't have visa.
They have also listed their best friend, Russia.
Trump is a Russian agent.
16 countries. Africa dominates the yellow list. The 16 African countries on the yellow list are Angola. Now listen to this list, also is interesting. The 16 countries, African countries that are on the yellow list, they include Angola, Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Chad, Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, Equatorial Guinea, DRC now the one they are now plundering, Gambia, Liberia, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, Sao Tome and Principe, and Zimbabwe. The remaining 6 countries on the list are Antigua and Barbuda, Cambodia, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia and Vanuatu. The report said an official speaking on the condition of anonymity said that the list could be changed as it has yet to be approved by the administration. In other words, they have listed them. They are waiting for Trump to sign, and then they officially release the list. Let me begin with Comrade Dan Rugaram.
Speaker, in this world, there are...
But before you come, Comrade Rugaram, let me ask you guys, where did God sit? This God of ours, where did he sit and gave all authority to America? That it will be America listing other countries in red, in yellow, in pink, in dark blue. Then who lists America?
No.
All the atrocities they are accusing other countries, America is the headmaster of those things.
No.
If you are listing any country of any issues, America, you are the headmaster of that.
No truth.
If it's about illegal entering another country, territory, America, you're in Cuba.
Of course.
Not
just Cuba.
No, the truth of the matter is that America is the superpower now. Now, the superpower, militarily speaking, gives it the leverage to impose unwanted so many things on other countries, and she's been doing it for a very long time. That even when we come as historians and socio-political analysts to say that Britain, France, and other European countries, especially Western countries, heavily participated in colonialism. The biggest colonizer, I want to tell you as we talk now, because colonialism is alive and well, is actually United States of America. To the extent that it is actually colonizing Europe itself. The entire NATO, as we know it, is nothing but America. And even
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
The truth of the matter is that even Europe itself knows that it is militarily colonized and economically colonized by United States of America. It is not Europe, Western Europe is not on her own. And now, I thank Trump, and they should be thanking him too, that he has opened their eyes. That actually America, United States of America, is not a guarantor of peace in Europe. Instead, the imperialist power that it is, Europe is equally imperialistic anyway, United States of America would want, if it sees and identifies an opportunity somewhere else, and it can use Europe, it will use her. And this is what was happening when they were extending their tentacles north during their claim that Ukraine actually had to be part of the European Union and a member of NATO. Now, let's address ourselves to the issue of arrogance. In the red, yellow, and blue listing that America has come up with, it is nothing but a show of the usual arrogance that America has been doing.
And racism.
There is absolutism, racism, yeah. Imperialism. This is typical America thinking that it is a superpower and there is nobody to challenge them, and therefore they can do whatever they want. Actually, if you want to know what I'm talking about, see the way Zelensky was treated. And Trump was very clear. You know, some of these things you guys have got to appreciate them. And our dear viewers, some of these things we are not saying them simply because we want to talk and be seen on camera. The truth of the matter is that you must not just use your naked eyes, but you have got to use your inner eyes. Zelensky was told that he has no cards. So this is a game of cards.
When they say you have no cards, what does that imply?
It simply means that you have got no means to be arguing in a manner you are arguing as if you have got any say.
When you're arguing with Trump.
Absolutely. The say can only be between nuclear superpowers. That is why, for instance, Africa has been arguing that we must be part and parcel of United Nations Security Council.
We must have veto power.
Absolutely. Two, by the way, that's what we discussed and agreed upon in South Africa. Two, say that Africa is France times 2. Africa is United States of America times 2. That for us we can veto twice. But they are not even giving you once. The truth of the matter is therefore that what Trump has helped us.
This man's country, France, has veto powers. One
it
country.
has.
America has.
France is a is a nuclear power.
That's the thing. We have the nuclear bomb.
Yes, is a nuclear power.
Russia has.
And actually,
Russia has powers.
Oh,
Germany has.
No, Russia. Germany destroyed their nuclear plants. They are no longer nuclear power.
US, France, Russia, US.
The nuclear power that, for instance, Russia has, even if you combine my brother Lissafre's country, the entire Europe, the nuclear capability of Russia, even if you combine the nuclear capability of the entire Europe minus Russia, they cannot come anywhere near Russia's nuclear capability. And Trump, fortunately, is aware of that. But France is very good in air defense. Arguably, by the way, I think they produce
because we know that the atomic bomb would come from Russia, so they protected the country from radars.
They have got the best, one of the best air defenses. But remember, the current president is aware that he is dealing with a nuclear power, and that's why he is very conscious in trying to help out Ukraine. He knows that if he rubs Russia the wrong way, the current president of Russia is not stupid. He can harm him. And that is why Germany itself also is very conscious. In other words, the attempt to attack Ukraine was a failed attempt from the start. And they are aware now. Trump is even much more aware than Biden that this is something that cannot work. But let's go back to the sanctions we are talking about. Trump, in trying to list African countries, to list other countries in the Caribbeans, in South America, like Venezuela, like Cuba. Cuba, a case in point. There is no reason whatsoever as to why Cuba is being listed in red. If you ask, is Cuba a terrorist state? Answer is no. Therefore, on what grounds are you listing Cuba as a terrorist state? It is simply because Cuba decided to act independently, to have her own foreign policy, not to be a colonial agent of United States of America, and yet, when you look at Guantanamo Bay, which is part of Cuba, America claims that such a territory was sold to her by Spain, another colonial power. Therefore,
so somebody can sell a country.
This is what they do. When you look at the military bases, or where countries where America has put military bases, that territory is American territory. And they will claim that you cannot remove such a military base unless and until you have fully agreed. Like Tokyo was trying to argue. You remember the rape of the 14-year-old by an American Marine, and the parliament of Japan sat and said, we are chasing you away. It was a very big talking point until they agreed and certain concessions were made and they left that base there. America has been increasing her bases globally. Reason is that because they know they are a country which begins wars, sponsors aggression to the rest of other countries, they have got to station their armies nearby. They are in Korea. Somebody can argue that Southern Korea, Seoul, is the 7th largest economy, but one must be very critical to look at who is helping them with their technology and also their tradables, the trade items. It is America. In other words, South Korea becomes an extension of the American hegemony. At the same time, when you look at Israel, Israel is nothing but another satellite state. It is an extension of America. Actually, when you go to Israel and they see in your passport that you have ever been to Israel, that is a ticket to American visa. That's very true. My brother here knows that. For a fact, I have been to embassies whereby if they say, oh, you have been to Israel, oh, it's okay. This works. And that is why you see a very big movement of the one of the reasons as to why you see these Christians who want they organize trips to go to Israel. They are also scheming other things. Going forward, I want to tell you, countries like Burkina Faso, countries like Libya, which have been listed, which have been listed, it is because they have changed their economic policy. They are inward looking. They are self-determining. They want to deal with France. They don't want to deal with France. They want to deal with Russia. They want to deal with Iran. Because, like Venezuela, it is saying no. I am not simply because I'm the backyard country to United States of America. I can have my own policy on oil. I want to deal with Russia. I want to deal with China because they are giving me a better deal. America does not work that way. America wants her imperialism to shine through. They will want the national oil reserves of Venezuela to be a pure preserve of United States of America. When you come in and you want to invite conglomerate companies from Russia, from China, to participate in exploration and trade in the oil of Venezuela, you are going to be listed as a terrorist and your government is going to be sabotaged, and that is what the United States of America is doing. In other words, Cuba, Russia, Mali, Burkina Faso, Libya, which they themselves destroyed by calling Gaddafi a dictator, and they ended up eliminating him. Like they themselves sponsored the bringing down of the Lockerbie incident. And then they turned around and they claimed that actually it was the Libyan mafias, and Gaddafi paid heavily, including but not limited to sending those suspects, some who were brought back having been injected with very strange substance and they died of cancer shortly thereafter. That is the hegemonic empire in America that we have. But people shy away from bringing this reality. When you had the likes of Malcolm X talking, the human civil rights activist in America, bringing these realities, what happened to him? He was assassinated. When you had the likes of Dr. Khalid bringing these realities to
Khalid
Muhammad, he was assassinated. When you had the likes of Martin Luther King, who was actually a little bit liberal, still, because after his sermon on the mountain, he was eliminated. When you had the likes of people like Minister Luis Farrakhan, who is now very elderly, still he is not assassinated simply because he is heavily protected. They realized the game plan. Therefore, And when you look at all the progressive countries, Zimbabwe was put on sanctions simply because she had rejected a line that was proposed by Britain, and the deceptions that were paraded by Britain or the subsequent prime ministers who deceived that they were going to handle the issue of land in Zimbabwe that had been taken by the whites. The arrogance of our brothers and sisters. Because you see, when I say whites, I don't mean that anybody in white skin is a bad person. I'm simply saying because we have had very many, by the way, during apartheid, we had the white people who were against apartheid. When we had the discrimination in America, we had white people who were against discrimination in America. The racism recently in Britain, we had white people who came on the side of those who were being segregated. When you see, there I can go on and on and on giving you some of these examples.
He doesn't agree with this.
Our brother here is with us. You cannot take it anything. You can take his Pan-African credentials or humanistic credentials away from him on the account of color.
Thank you very much. On that note, thank you very much. We will come to give a better explanation on that land issue. Comrade Lissafre, we go back to the same. I'm asking you the same topic.
It is. I'm going to support another angle, right? Because I think like this one has been well presented. I'm going to support the idea that it's a really good news. It's a really good news. The move of Donald Trump, and globally, Donald Trump is a good news for Africa. Why do I say that? Right? America is in decline. Okay? America is in decline. It looks like they are fighting the world and all that, and they are showing muscles, but they're showing muscles because they are in decline. We are observing a fish.
These are kicks of a dying horse.
Yeah, exactly. We are observing a fish that is slowly but surely seeing the water like lowering. So therefore, he moves more. You know, he gesticulates more. But what it is, it's a decline. And I will give you 3 numbers, so you go and research them yourself, and we can go on the other argument. But the first numbers are child mortality. The child mortality is increasing in the US since over like 10 years. So there's more and more child dying before the age of 1 year old.
In America?
In America.
Child mortality?
Yes, child mortality is increasing.
But they're saying that Africa is losing more children than...
No, don't listen to them too much, Rumba. You know it. Child mortality is increasing in the US. Life expectancy is in decline. So Americans are living shorter and shorter and shorter life, right? As we
Than
speak.
Africans.
Then it's in decline, where in Africa it's rising, right? And then the last one is just go and check the price of gold. Never ever the price of gold have been as expensive as today as we record. It passed $3,000 for an ounce. What does it mean? It means that everyone that owns dollars in the world right now is buying gold, so they don't use the dollars anymore. Right? So you have a decline as a society, and you have a decline in the financial capacity. So because America is in decline, then we should see all of this as a good news. We should see all of this as a good news because let's look at the country that they have targeted. Libya, Burkina Faso, Mali. We're speaking of countries that are already in the hand of Russia. Right? Those countries have no interest. Traore have zero interest into going to Washington. Traore is not trying to go to Washington. Assimi Goïta is in power since 3 years and a half now. He has never tried to go to Washington. Those countries knows that they have nothing to wait from Washington. Right? So what we observe is a good news. We're observing a good news because at the moment where America is withdrawing from the world...
You are being sarcastic. We are observing good news when we are telling you that over 22 African countries are being
yes, because those people
and
will
you are calling it good news.
Yes, because those people will continue to travel. They just won't go to America anymore. They will go somewhere else, and that somewhere else is going to open their mind.
I agree.
It's going to
and
open
that's the
their
opportunity.
eyes.
Very good point.
I want the middle class of Burkina Faso to go and visit China, to go and visit Singapore. They will know much more about what to do of their country than if they go to Washington and Los Angeles. So it is a good news. It is a good news. The Libyans, the Burkinabe, the Malians. Okay, of course, it will take a bit of time. Some of them have students, maybe have students in America or things like this. But today, you better be a student in China, in Singapore, or in Qatar than a student in America. You will have the same services for cheaper, right? So it is important we realize that by America withdrawing its power from the African continent is a good news, because when they block all those countries, they're also blocking the roads of minerals, right? So of course they say people need a visa to come and we won't give them visa anymore, blah blah blah. But Donald Trump speaks to who? Why does he do that? He does that for his American people. I do not believe that Donald Trump has that capacity to understand the impact of what he's doing. Otherwise, he would have stopped with that tax nonsense. We're all observing that he's adding tax to Canada, then he's withdrawing tax to Canada, then he's re-adding tax to Canada, then re-withdrawing tax to Canada, because the value of American company right now, as we speak, is in decline. Right? Tesla is in decline, Facebook is in decline, Google is in decline, OpenAI is in decline. China is challenged by the Chinese. So the value of American economy is in decline under the Trump administration.
GPT, is it not American?
OpenAI is American, but now the shareholders' value is declining because the Chinese have come with a new system that's called Deep Blue, Deep Slide or something like this. So they
China is deprecating everything America is doing.
Exactly. Go to South Africa, check the new Range Rover by Chinese. It's not a Range Rover, it has another name. It's a Chinese name. But it's exactly a Range Rover.
And it's 30% cheaper.
It's 30% cheaper. So China. So right now what we observe is the decline of America and the rise of other global powers, such as China, such as Turkey, such as Brazil at some point tried. But what we see is what we really see, right? It's a broke man breaking with his girlfriends, saying that the girlfriends don't treat him right.
A broke man.
A broke man.
After running broke.
Now
he wants to use. He
blame his girlfriend for breaking. America is a broke man as we speak. America is a broke man.
Let's move to the next topic, Comrade Rugarama. I will begin with you again. America, you know how, Comrade Rugarama, the U.S. President Donald Trump, you know how he ashamed, belittled Zelensky in his White House, in the Oval Office. Now we are beginning to understand that actually Zelensky was trying to put a fight on the minerals contract. Trump was thinking that they should simply come and take over everything. Zelensky was saying, no, please, according to the military support you are giving us, this is what you are supposed to take. So the disagreement was about how much of the minerals must I extract from Ukraine in exchange for
protection against Russia.
That's where the problem came from. And then I think they had premeditated how they would handle him with the vice president. The vice president of Trump looks to be this hard guy trying to put him in his corner, push him, because he's saying, you see how you are responding to the president of the country, White House, you're in the Oval Office, see how you're responding. But you're not even saying sorry for how you are talking about. Yeah, how do you come here and you speak the way you are speaking in White House?
Yes, he was invited.
You cannot even say sorry for the support. But in real sense, has he been giving free support, or it has been give and take? It's been a business. I am giving you Amare, you give me this. But now when he comes to White House, the vice president thinks that a whole president of a country, Ukraine, should be treated like a small boy. Like a house boy.
For which he was actually treated like a small boy.
Now, let me finish. When he goes back, they start now talking diplomatic language. Now Zelensky is now sending signals that they now want to sign the minerals contract.
He has already written a letter.
Yes. So the same thing, they are doing the same template they are using to Congo. Congo has been a place where every powerful country is coming and plundering. America wants to take over. What do they do first? First support the rebels, take a big chunk of Congo, put the Tshisekedi on his knees, and now apply for protection. This is what he's doing already. You get it? Put them on his knees, and then he comes and says, please, America, help me. Kagame is taking me. You know? and of course Uganda. So with that, they are also negotiating a minerals deal contract. Same applies to what they are doing in Somalia. Support the rebel in Somaliland.
Because China has all those minerals. China has all those minerals already. They know they can't fight them.
Try to divide Somalia into two, Somaliland and Somalia, but with American hand in the background with the rebels, so that you put Somalia on the agenda so that they can give you the contracts. I want to hear your analysis, Comrade Rugarama.
Naume Chomsky, right,
that is your brother.
In his book.
Who is Naume Chomsky?
He's a Jewish American professor.
When I heard Naume, I thought that is
of geostrategic studies. He observes in a number of his writings that the world, and America in particular, has positioned herself to export war where there is peace in order for her to gain economically. You see, when she wants to sell guns, because America has got a lot of industry or factories, if you like, which manufacture all manner of arms, and America must have a market for those arms, and certainly they will have to create situations which you see
which will require guns
in the world, where the demand for their products will have to be created, and this is what they are doing. And this is not a secret. The only thing you need to do is not to behave like a weekend historian. You must be an everyday student of history and a vigorous intellectual who must question some of these things. You ask yourself as if the African continent, for instance, is a cursed continent that there is no president who gets it right for his country. No, it's a blueprint. It doesn't matter whether you are, and I'm not making a case for African dictators and those who are governing badly, because we have them. They are there who are governing badly, who are agents of America and Western Europe. They are there. Even when they come on the so-called tenets of democracy. We have people, you ask yourself, who have come with the full support of the American and Western capitals backing. They have been welcomed, and they are congratulatory notes from every European country, and America have been very glamorous if you read them. But they have achieved zero success in their countries. They have not added anything meaningful to their countries, rendering their glorious, victorious messages from their backers negatory. For instance, you will go to our senior brother, with all due respect, like Chakwera. What has he gained for his country? Zero. Because the blueprint is that
Chakwera, meaning which one now?
The president of Malawi should be the president of Malawi or something like that, around there. You will go to even our own lovely president in Zambia, Hikirima, and you ask yourself, what has he achieved? He was in America recently, and he was also signing mineral concessions. Because he neighbors DRC, they have got some bit of copper. He signed the copper concessions to the American company.
The biggest man in the world of copper, not a small one, the biggest one.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, what's significant, apart from coming and giving glorious speeches, and I thank him, by the way, there are certain few things, at least to the ordinary mind, there are certain few things that you'd hear, that there was a farm which was grabbed by Minister X during the time of, say, Kenneth Kaunda, and then they are going to recover it. Then they recover it. But the bigger picture is that whether you clean up the toilets of the market, whether you say the ministers drive Nissan Raules instead of V8s, it does. Whether you reduce the convoy of Hikirima by a half, I can assure you that the main issues, the bigger issues on how the education system is going to be run and how it is going to be arranged, on how the health of the country is going to be, the health architecture of Zambia will be somewhere else. And because you see, at the end of the day, can Hikirima, for instance, show you how much he has achieved in the sector of manufacturing medicine? Can he do that? These are the questions we want to hear, to ask, and the answers we want to see from the so-called progressive African leaders and other. But when you go to Cuba, where they have listed it as in red, they have got their pharmaceutical, independent pharmaceutical, even when, by the way, America has put them under the sanctions for the last 60 economic embargo. They recently also listed them as a terrorist state, which was removed by Biden when he was moving away, and immediately in the executive orders was reintroduced by Trump. You can imagine, what does Cuba terrorize? Who does it terrorize? Maybe to say that Cuba terrorizes the entire world by being on economic sanctions, and yet it is the best pharmaceutical hub. That is terrorism, according to the States of America. Maybe to say we are relisting Cuba simply because Cuba has got the rate, the literacy rates, almost 97% of her population, they are all literate. To the extent that in the medical world, the ratio is almost one doctor to something like, I think 500 Cubans. You can imagine. Here in Uganda, we don't even have that. I think they even reduce it, by the way. It should be to about 300 of them. Now, you go to a situation like life expectancy. The decline that my brother Tatina was talking about, there is a decline. In United States of America, the second largest killer of an American is exposure to the conventional medicine. That by taking aspirin and these other medicines, the Americans die out of that, and it is the second.
And Coca-Cola and McDonald's, eh?
There you go. And yet they are
American
the ones,
companies.
Yes, you know McDonald's and
KFC,
Coca-Cola. This
Coca-Cola.
KFC stuff and Coca-Cola, which we are.
They lead to obesity. Obesity leads to the
these
kind of
eating
populations,
habits, which we have adopted, our children have adopted, our parents here on the African continent are eating poorly, and they don't know that they are eating poorly. In other words, they are eating themselves to their graves. So, when you have life expectancy in Cuba on the increase, even better than that one of Japan, certainly better than that one of Germany, here, Luis Farrakhan will tell you that if you are getting a medicine and you are not getting it from Cuba, be very careful. Because you are eating, you are taking your medication to your grave. In other words, we are having a situation where the conceptual West, being headed by America, which forgets that she is on the decline, and the decline, by the way, is very well elaborated by Naomi Chomsky, like I have told when you read through his publications. Is very well elaborated that America certainly is a declining power. But a declining power, I must also warn you, does not mean that she cannot win a war, that she cannot practice imperialism, but all the same she is declining. And it is the worst form of practicing imperialism and all manner, because she's extending imperialism to Cuba. America is extending imperialism to Venezuela, extending imperialism to Haiti, at the same time wanting to extend imperialism in the Arab region through Israel. Israel is nothing but America. Don't be deceived. Israel is simply an extension, it is a satellite state of America. And that is why you find that South Africa, which we were talking about, is being punished because she single-handedly took Israel and successfully caused the indictment of a sitting prime minister of Israel with his minister of defense. That is the crime enough. It will never be forgiven for having successfully done that.
That is the crime South Africa is paying.
Absolutely.
They use the weapons. They use the weapons of the colonizer to
exactly to say
the very same law.
Your own creation.
And your own law.
Absolutely.
You have came with those laws.
And America,
South Africa is facing what it is facing from America because of exercising.
It is not yet over.
Because of exercising their right to go to court when they feel aggrieved.
Let me tell you.
Another one.
Let me tell you.
Where did they want South Africa to go when it is aggrieved?
No, go nowhere.
They want to go nowhere. They want
nowhere.
people to look at.
I am aggrieved. I have gone to court.
Let me tell
and I'm paying a price for that.
You are not supposed to.
When you are aggrieved, you come and kill people.
Mr. Speaker, Mr.
Then you say he's America now projects itself as a model of democracy.
Mr.
The headmaster of democracy.
It has never been. It has never been.
That's what they say.
America has never been a democracy.
Never.
And whoever says America is a model of democracy is doing nothing but telling a stinking bad lie.
Propaganda.
Now, it is a stinking bad lie. But that notwithstanding, I wanted to tell you that according to Trump's administration and the majority of those people and the way they think, an African person is not supposed to have the kind of brain that South Africa has to make sure that they use their own law created by those other guys to beat them at their own game. It is criminal. Even the American sections of the American society told the prosecutor at International Criminal Court that if you indict and the court finally agrees with you, the Prime Minister of Israel with his Minister of Defense, we shall make your life very difficult here because he's an American. We shall make your life very difficult here. You can imagine interfering with somebody where he's doing his job. And we shall also harass your family.
Hey.
Yes, they did that.
America warning the
absolutely, and it was not isolated voices. No,
America warning the prosecutor of ICJ.
Exactly, it was official position. They said we are going to make your life very difficult. You not as you as an individual,
but the entire family,
but also your family. You can imagine that kind of arrogance and the show of bravado, but also there are certain words which I don't want to use
them. Don't use them.
Because it will be very unfortunate. But I want to
I want to conclude. As I come to
I want to conclude by telling you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and our dear audience, that we have got a monster. We have got a monster in the imperialistic, conceptual Western capitals and being headed by America, who constantly have looked at us, the rest of the world, as not equal at all, and they do not expect anything good to come out of us, and they will make sure that they use the law in a manner that is going to advantage them and disadvantage us. We must be on the lookout. I have told you that the only solution we have is one. We must devise and go into a second revolution. And this kind of revolution is an ideological revolution for us to be able not to be deceived by small things, tokenism, but also to go outside, physically, ideologically, and otherwise, including witchcraft, and make sure that we overcome this manner of imperialism.
Witchcraft. This man is rather. You want to bewitch America? You start with this one.
Listen,
start bewitching.
As a witchcraft specialist, I can tell you that the type of witchcraft America is doing has not worked for America. He works for someone else, but it doesn't work.
Go to the topic. What do you
Listen,
think?
the questions of minerals are not the question of Donald Trump's. Donald Trump's, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to do anything with a mineral. You give Donald Trump 1 kilogram of coltan, he doesn't know what to do. He's not an engineer, he's not a smart guy. Who has interest into these rare minerals that we're talking about that Donald Trump wants in Ukraine and that he wants in DRC, right? And by the way, if he was as smart as we sometimes say he is, he would realize that Ukraine is nothing comparing to DRC, and he should put his effort into the minerals of DRC, he would get much more. But anyway, he doesn't have this level of analysis. Who have an interest into this? It's not America as a state, it's not the American administration, it's not Donald Trump himself, it's the technology mogul of America, right? The technology mogul of America. We're speaking of Bezos. We're speaking of Sam Altman. We're speaking of Mark Zuckerberg. We're speaking of all the big tech of America that are right now top in the top 10 of the world leading companies and the most financial.
They live in their village called what? They have their village in America.
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Silicon, which is something absolutely not natural, by the way. Anyway,
there's nothing
natural about silicon.
Silicon Valley is not natural.
No, I mean the silicon is a chemical product. It's not natural. It's not like the grass or the wood that we are sitting with.
Okay.
Anyway, so what does it mean is that it means that we need to look at the technology company and their needs, right? And what we see is that those technology company right now knows as a fact that China's challenge it cannot be defeated. That China is moving step by step and then it's reaching its goal. China has reached its goal in capitalism since the last 30 years and they know they are the next on the list, right? So someone like OpenAI knows that if they don't extend quickly and size the market, they won't have opportunity tomorrow because Chinese company will do it. The same way they do our smartphone, they do our laptop, they do our cars, they do our clocks, they do everything right now that America used to do, right? So those technology companies, those American technology company has interest into rare minerals, right? And Donald Trump has been financed his own campaign with that money, right? So those big technology companies also provide money for Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is an agent of those technology companies. Donald Trump is an agent of American capitalism. And which side of American capitalism is growing right now? The technology one. But in order to grow further from this actual size, they need rare minerals. They need servers. They need massive servers. They need a lot of place to put data together so the algorithm will function better and win over Chinese algorithm, right? So I know it's a bit technical, but what we have to understand here is that those rare minerals are Trump acting as an agent of the technology company of America, right? And those technology company of America right now are seriously under threat. So that's why we also observe like he's trying to make a lot of deals, because those companies knows that Chinese companies have access to much more rare minerals that they have, because China is just bigger and more equipped on those things, right? So America cannot win a battle on technology without Ukraine, without DRC, without Peru. I think there's a big like mine in Peru as well, I heard. Without those countries, right? They cannot win. And yet...
And remember, they were just successfully. America was successfully just from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, which has got a lot
of rare minerals,
second largest.
But also the French are still taking the uranium from them. They still sell us uranium.
Yeah, they also just them from. They were just from Burkina Faso, by the way.
By Niger. So yes. We were just in Niger, so we went to Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Correct. So those rare minerals are really key, and we cannot understand the politics at play if we don't understand the role they play in making the rich people richer. It is really important we note that, because that's what's happening. By grabbing those minerals, it will make like the American national bourgeoisie richer and more powerful, right? That it is right now. So now he's under shake because he realized that he doesn't have the capacity. Just have a look at Sam Altman. Sam Altman is the last big like CEO of the Silicon Valley. He created OpenAI that gave birth to ChatGPT, right? Is Sam Altman traveling to America all the time? No. Look at his plane schedule. You will realize Sam Altman was in in Arabia Saudi, some Altman is in China, some Altman is in Qatar, some Altman is going to every country that have money because he knows he cannot finance the next technological revolution without the money of other countries. He cannot finance all the servers he needs in order to collect and stock the data that he used for his algorithm in order to develop like his robotics and all his crazy capitalist project, right? So it is quite clear right now by looking at how those CEO of big technology companies behave that Donald Trump is playing in their favors, right? Elon Musk helping Donald Trump. We all think that it is because they have similar ideology. That's what they want us to think. But we have to remember that they were fighting in the first mandate. Elon Musk was saying we need an electronical car for the planet. And Donald Trump was saying we need like an oil car for American economy. So they're not aligned that much as we think. Why do they ally right now? Because Donald Trump is really, Elon Musk is really smart, and he has understood that Donald Trump is quite weak. He speaks, but he doesn't have much cards to play. As he was saying, he doesn't have much cards to play because he's not a capitalist as big as the one he's dealing with, right? So Donald Trump play with those cards. He's trying to look left, right, and center. But at the end of the day, he knows his weakness, and Elon Musk has understood that he can use Donald Trump to change the legislation, to move America from a society that doesn't allow like self-drive, like automatic drive from AI. There is a lot of law that Donald Trump has to change in order for his business to flourish in America. And he's using, Elon Musk, he's using Donald Trump to change this, and he has made like Silicon Valley, like mogul, like go gather around him so they can continue to chase what is the most important, which is the minerals and what Earth is giving and what America is taking to the world to bring back to America, to transform so the national bourgeoisie can produce more and more and more and more again.
Very good. You have an addition?
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to supplement.
Just use like 2 minutes. We move to the next topic.
What Comrade Rutatina has just said. What Comrade Rutatina has just said that you see these American presidents, they let Kajawago Karsoke, our mentor in Pan-Africanism, was very clear, and he used to say that the presidents of America, whoever sits in the Oval Office in the White House, is but a cartoon. You know that description. He used to call them cartoons. But Rutatina here has properly contextualized them and described them as nothing but agents. The truth of the matter, a lot of money is used during the campaigns, presidential campaigns in America. Yeah, and those multinationals who sponsor their respective candidates, they are the ones who determine the foreign policy that America is going to adopt. You will find that even the fight which was in the Oval Office about the rare minerals in Ukraine was as a consequence of the multinationals who are into the space engineering, the electronic engineering, and they would want to have the rare minerals to enhance their production and sustainability in the space engineering and other related like telephone, communication gadgets,
satellite communication,
all that, and therefore the president is pushed, and you will think that is the American policy, and that is why, by the way, some of the analysts have come up to say that look, the American, so-called American national, foreign policy is nothing but individual, capitalistic, economic, hegemonic conglomerates. These multinational companies who are interested in the oil revenues or oil who have got oil interests in Venezuela, in DRC, are the ones who actually influence what the President of America carries forward as the America's foreign policy.
Thank you. Maybe one minute, if time allows. I want to hear your word. Let me begin with the Countries-Lissafre, the South African ambassador. has been expelled from US.
I think it's fortunate we finish with this because he has explained it earlier, right? It's been quite clear about the fact that South Africa has acted against American interests with American laws. I'm transforming a bit because the International Criminal Court of Justice, right, which I visited in my youth on Charles Taylor trials, right? Charles Taylor of Liberia.
You went there?
I went there to follow because I wanted to know, like, what type of truth do we get from those institutions? Because when you have Charles Taylor in front of you, you know he's gonna tell the truth. So you can listen to Charles Taylor and see what really happened. What is he saying that is really happened that other people don't say? And he was really instructive because after the whole trial they said, okay, we can't do anything against that guy because he clearly has exposed the facts. Anyway, listening to the source by the source himself. I was doing that in my 18, 20 years old. I was something like this. Anyway, the International Criminal Court of Justice has been made mainly by Northern powers, right? In order to judge like third world countries back in the days. Now they call it developing world, whatever. So it has been an instrument of European imperialism in the world, right? It's been created at the same time. And now South Africa is using the very same tools, right, against Israel, and they saying that
and the extension America.
Yeah, and they use the
because
law.
America is annoyed that South Africa took Israel there.
And now the Israeli power, the Israeli
and
lobby,
said that Israel is a satellite of America.
Is a satellite of America, and also like American Jews are highly powerful inside politics of America, so they can also like push against South Africa if South Africa is doing something that goes against Israel interests. And clearly South Africa is doing something good. To get expelled, for your ambassador to get expelled from the US as a Pan-African, it's a reward.
Hey,
it is a reward. It is a reward.
Because if it never happened,
then that means what are you doing?
You are an agent. Now with the Minister of South Africa, he's actually doing very well. Kwame Nkrumah noted that he was supported by Sankara. That if you see an African freedom fighter
in the
being
US
praised by the colonial power, like you know that he has ceased to fight for you.
Like Nelson Mandela, just saying. Anyway.
So can I conclude?
This man is
I'm just saying.
Can I conclude on this?
Please.
I'm just re-echoing Mr. Speaker, sir, what I had earlier on pointed out. The expulsion of the South African ambassador
from America
is nothing that should worry us in the first place. This is South Africa is a whole block of Pan-African country, and the history of South Africa speaks for itself, especially with the fighting of apartheid and the byproducts of the apartheid fighting, the Mkozoziwi
Mkoto
Wasiziwi is just but in these people. They may fail here and there, but the spirit is still strong there. We witnessed that during the time of the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, our auntie who has now retired, where she successfully, along with her colleagues, took the imperialist, separatists, the racist Israel to International Criminal Court, and they successfully prosecuted them. From there, we had their interest and the prayer that they should also indict the Prime Minister of Israel with his Minister of Defense. Both of them were successfully indicted, and now they are on the wanted list. Never mind that very few countries are ready and prepared to take them, to grab them if they landed on their soil and take them to the Hague, because we know that Israel is nothing but a satellite, a backyard country of America. So therefore, what South Africa is going through, the expulsion of the ambassador, the listing of South Africa on putting it on her on the red list, is because South Africa has rediscovered herself and wants and is on a point of taking off in the Pan-African rim. We must therefore look out. If this has happened to South Africa, it means that there is no other country, because it is our biggest economy, there is no any other country on the African continent which is safe. the sanctioning of America to different individuals and countries is not because they have done anything wrong. It is simply because they have accepted, realized that they have got to do things on their own tentacles, on their own ways. It is in the same manner that the independence which Cuba wants and has been fighting for, it is because of that Cuba is under sanctions. Maduro's Venezuela is under sanctions because of that. The fight in Haiti to control her own resources and the plagues being sent there by America, we all know is because Haiti wants to be on her own. The entire world is engulfed in a ball of fire extended to them by imperialistic America and her cousins, simply because they want to control them and have a unipolar world. But we no longer can afford a unipolar world. It is now a multipolar world, and it is high time America and her colonies realized that they must accept the truth of the matter, that they are no longer the only superpower. There are others who are the superpowers, and hell knows within a very little time we are going to see the decline of America, not on her own terms, but she's going to disintegrate like the Ottoman Empire disappeared.
And on that note, comrade,
on that really positive and optimistic note, but realistic also. Realistic is right. America without the world is going to decline.
Countries-Lissafre, freelance journalist from France and a researcher. Comrade, my elder brother Dan Rugarama, chairman of the Pan-African Movement, the national chapter, the Uganda chapter, but also Comrade Rugarama is a lawyer. He's actually a renowned city lawyer. My name is Andrew Rumba Katsebe, your speaker. This is the weekly round table, the Pan-African Pyramid weekly round table, and follow this show on NBS Television, our media partner, on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. Also, you can follow us on the Spy Uganda, the Spy Television, our other media partner on the Pan-African Pyramid. This show will actually be there on our YouTube channel. And from now till we meet again, Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
Don't agonize.
Organize.
One Africa.
One people.
One people.
One Africa.
You bring yours.
Amandla.
Away to.
Aluta.
Continua.
Aluta.
Continua.
Continua.
Thank you so much.